Professor Marcello De Noli is a renowned authority on those days and what happened next. And I'm glad to say he joins us now on the mother of all talk shows. Professor, welcome to the show. It is a melancholy fact, isn't it? It is a melancholy fact, isn't it, that nobody, except people your age and mine, very much remembers the bloodbath in Chile in 1973.
Indeed, the new generations are not so well informed. They are more and more disinformed about what's been happening in history and in referring episodes or in geopolitical episodes that actually have shaped the current situation that we have nowadays.
What was Allende's biggest crimes that earned him the enmity of the United States of America, the CIA, and the European satraps of the US empire?
Well, that could be summed up in one and only event. He was the first democratically elected president with a socialist background and with a program which was clearly devised to construct a new socialist society in Chile in all kinds of spheres, economically and in health care and property of different means of production in agriculture, and fundamentally also the nationalization of the copper mining companies and other minings, which were at a time in control by the United States and other corporate interests. But in the main, it was not a economical threat. It was absolutely the political or geopolitical threat that the victory of Allende could signify for reshaping the panorama at that time. Kissinger said that himself in a meeting with President Nixon. It was even before the coup, when it was clear that Allende could be elected. And then he said the main threat is that the other countries in South America in the first place, and perhaps others in other latitude, would follow suit and elect democratically president with a similar socialist background that the one Allende had.
What role did Kissinger and Nixon play in the overthrow of President Allende?
Oh, well, it was a fundamental role. They took the initiative for this action, and long before the coup took place in September 11th, 1973. But already before, in a meeting that. In a meeting that was held in the White House with the presence of Kissinger and the presence of Richard Helms, then director of the CIA, Nixon's orders were to create the conditions to overthrow Allende if he was going to assume the presidency, but preferably that organize a set of activities that would prevent that Allende could be elected. And his orders were, crystal clear. We know this because the National Archive have disclosed declassified documents in which are the notes of Richard Helms, handwritten notes of Richard Helms, in which he is reproducing the words said by Nixon, and he ordered the CIA the CIA. And I quote, you have to dedicate full-time and use the best men we have in this endeavor. So that meeting took place in September 15. There was September 15, 1970. That was 2 months before Allende could assume the presidency of the Republic of Chile.
Now, the methods that they used to create the conditions have become part of a playbook that we have become familiar with in many other so-called color revolutions. This was an early color revolution, wasn't it? You use your soft power, your economic power, your cultural power, and your secret state power to undermine the elected government of other countries as a precursor to overthrow them.
Exactly. Kissinger's orders were to subvert the economic panorama as well as the political one, to prepare the conditions, or to give the military the reasons to implement a plan for a coup d'etat. Actually was a CIA plan, and the same thing that in one way or the other, exactly as you are saying, has been happening in the so-called color revolutions. And the Ukrainian example is not at all outside that paradigm.
Now, I don't know if these professors, Friedman and co, openly wished for tens of thousands of Chileans to be murdered and tortured in the wake of the coup. Maybe that was an embarrassment to them, maybe not. But they certainly moved in quickly to make Pinochet, the new tyrant, the poster boy for their kind of economic shock treatment, didn't they?
Yeah, but you see, the main purpose of the coup d'etat in Chile in the first period was not actually economic. Did not have an purely economic character. That came afterwards. As I said before, the main purpose was to stop the creation of one example that could be followed by other countries in the hemisphere, and etc. So, but as soon as Pinochet took over, then as a reaction to the socialist model of handling the economy, then they resorted to an extreme neoliberal, extreme economic liberal model represented by Friedman and their so-called Chicago boys, and even some economists from Chile went there to the United States and study closely those theories, which actually had a devastating effect in the economy of Chile. Well, excuse me, the economy of Chile was apparently very successful. Pinochet could eventually pay all the debt that Chile had in international agencies, etc. But the thing is that recovery, or that success that Chile could show economically really represented an enormous sacrifice from the poorer classes in Chile. I mean, still Chile is known as the country with the best economy in Latin America. Sometimes they use the Chile model as an example to be implemented in other countries, but it is not so known that Chile still has one of the highest indexes when it comes to distribution of the income, or which is not favoring the poor classes. I mean, Chile is a country, is a rich country in the sense of what they produce, in the sense of their natural resources, etc. But the distribution of that output, it's going still to the elites, the running classes, etc. So that model started by the Friedman boys in Chile. The main feature is not the success of the Chilean economy, apparently, in how it was viewed internationally, but it was the devastating effect that occasioned among the masses in Chile.
I spent time with Chileans in Paris this weekend. It is evident that the scars, the deep physical and psychological scars suffered by Chilean society as a result of the coup have not at all entirely healed. Although a socialist, self-styled socialist president now rules again in Santiago, and indeed, I think Allende's grandson is prominent in politics in the country. The slogan, no pardon and no forgetting, is very much still on the minds. It's unfinished business, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is, because the wounds are not being healed. We have families that still have members of their family not being accounted. There is the phenomena of called the desaparecidos, the missing ones, the disappeared people, and of course, when you don't know the fate that actually the fate of actually, I believe that it's nearly 2,000 people that just disappeared. And there is no explanation for that, and no further investigations. Of course, there are investigations, and some military have been judged, and sometimes they have been condemned to terms in prison. But that is not representative of what has been happening in Chile during the 50 years. So wounds, as I said, are not healed, and the wounds are not only those referred personally to the mind, to the memories of those people who were fighting at that time, but the worst memory is that because we are reminding of that in Chile, of the economic catastrophe that signified for the masses the implementing of the neoliberal model by Pinochet. And let me add just one thing. Let me add that this not only who did disappear, but also, the political organizations, like, for instance, the movement of the revolutionary left, MIR, in which I participated in Concepcion in the resistance activities of this moment. We have lost vast number of our members, not much in the actually resistance, because it was very short-lived and we were defeated. But the repression that Allende initiated from the 11th of September onwards was devastating for our organization, who was the leading organization in terms of armed resistance, but also against other organizations like the Democratic Socialist Party, the Communist Party, of course, and etc. There are also open hills, not yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Open
wounds,
not,
yeah.